Apparently, Ubisoft is doing just fine. According to the game journals at least. Ubisoft hasn't exploded or been bought by Tencent, its finances were delayed because of math nerds, Assassin's Creed Shadows is overperforming. So yeah, everything is just fine, don't you worry at all. In fact, they made a ton of profit this year, around 20% more than last year, which I'll get into in just a bit. But if things are really that great, and I'm sure you're wondering this too, why does it seem like Ubisoft's barely hanging on? Why did they still need the Tencent money? Why is their stock price in the gutter? Why did they postpone the earnings call by an entire week? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about in this video. We're gonna go over what was exactly said on the earnings call, and when you strip away all the corporate lingo, you'll understand how bad things actually are. Now, before we start, just a quick disclaimer, I'm no accountant, I'm just a smooth-brained gamer with limited knowledge, so if you know better than me, please feel free to educate me in the comments down below. Thank you. First of all, let's make it clear why Ubisoft postponed the earnings call for a whole entire week. And no, it was not just because of math nerds. As you might already know, Ubisoft has taken out a big loan, like €1 billion big. Such huge loans come with certain conditions. The banks want to make sure the company isn't taking on too much debt compared to their profits. That's why the banks care about something called debt to core profits ratio. If this ratio is high, it means the company's profits are low. And this tells the bank that something is wrong, and since banks are greedy they never want any type of risks. That's why they have agreements in place telling companies to keep the debt to profits ratio maintained at a certain small number. In the case of Ubisoft, the ratio was to be maintained at 1.5, which basically means at any given point in time, the debt cannot be greater than 1.5 times the amount of profits Ubisoft is making. To put this into perspective, if they have a debt of €1 billion, their profits should be around at least €666 million, which is a fitting number for Ubisoft. Now, from what I can understand, here's where things went wrong. Recently, Ubisoft has struck up many partnerships with other big companies like Netflix, Xbox, and of course Tencent. However, Ubisoft was counting upfront cash payments from these partnerships as immediate profits, which is wrong and actually kinda illegal under IFRS rules. So when the new auditors came in and saw what was actually going on, they just went, yo dumbasses, that's not profit, that's deferred revenue. Fix this shit. Now let me explain in smooth gamer brain terms what that exactly means. Let's suppose you own 5 ducks. A friend comes over and offers a strategic partnership. They pay you $100 upfront for the rights to use the duck eggs for the next 5 months to make and sell omelette de fromage. You don't shove that $100 in your pocket right away and count it as profit. You still have to take good care of the ducks and deliver those eggs to your friend. Only when they actually sell the omelets, that's when the profits start rolling in. So basically, Ubisoft was counting profits which not yet existed. As soon as the accountants corrected the math, the profits suddenly tanked and the ratio shot up to 1.81 back in September, which is well above the 1.5 limit set by the banks, causing a violation of the loan agreement. Now, if they didn't postpone the earnings call and fix the mess, the aftermath would have been catastrophic. Shareholder trust would vanish, the stock price would crash, and they could even face lawsuits for misinformation on the earnings call. After delaying the earnings call and halting the stock trade, they were actually finalizing the deal with Tencent so that their balance sheets could be presentable. As the CFO Frederick Duray himself stated during the earnings call, the €1.16 billion proceeds from the Tencent transaction will enable us to deleverage the group and notably proceed with the early repayment of the term loan, which have an outstanding principal amount of approximately €286 million. Of note, €210 million were due next month. So they desperately needed the sweet Tencent money as soon as possible so they could address the loan agreement violation and pay the €210 million that were due next month. If the Tencent deal didn't go through, and Ubisoft failed to pay the dues, which they would have actually, the banks would have stepped in to get their money one way or another. In the worst case scenario, they'd start selling Ubisoft assets like maybe the Division IP to get their €200 million back. Now you might be wondering, but they said Assassin's Creed Shadows overperformed and overall things were looking much better than last year. Then why was Ubisoft still so desperate? Now here's what's important to understand. Overperforming doesn't necessarily mean that it's a massive blockbuster success, just like underperforming doesn't automatically mean that it's a flop. But some people don't understand that, or maybe they just don't want to, because of course they'll do anything they can to defend their lord and savior, Ubisoft. Misleading posts like this one are making rounds online. AC Shadows is overperforming, says Ubisoft. Ubisoft generated $567 million this quarter, up 39% year on year. Now this is just bullshit. These guys are misrepresenting the numbers just to own the chuds or whatever helps them sleep at night. Anyways, here's what Frederick had to say, and I quote, The Assassin's Creed franchise posted a strong performance in Q2, with both Assassin's Creed Shadows and the rest of the brand's catalog overperforming. This means that not just Shadows but the older games, specifically Mirage, which I'll get into in just a bit, they all overperformed. In the year to date, Assassin's Creed has generated 211 million session days, around 35% higher than the last 2 years average. Okay, hold up. What are we doing here? It's just crazy how these guys keep inventing these new metrics to measure their success. We've gone from copies sold to player counts to now whatever session days is. What's next? Number of clicks? Or better yet, the numbers of impression a game gets when someone opens the Ubisoft Plus menu? I mean, come on, this is just getting ridiculous. Anyway, session days basically means the total number of unique days on which the game was played. For example, if 1 million players log in today and play Assassin's Creed Shadows, that counts as 1 million session days. Now this is important to note. The player could play the game for 5 hours or just 5 minutes, that doesn't matter. Both still count as a single session day, and you can see where this is going. Now what's even crazier is Ubisoft took the year-to-date session days and then compared that number to the average of the last 2 years. Assassin's Creed Mirage came out back in the third quarter of 2023, and there was no major Assassin's Creed game the year before that or after that. So when you average a year of a smaller game like Mirage with a year where Ubisoft didn't even drop a big AC game, the whole average is pretty low in the first place. So of course these session days will appear 35% higher. This is the kind of mental gymnastics you start doing when the numbers are not impressive. Simply change what you're comparing them to until they look impressive. Just like my own subscriber growth in the last 7 days wasn't great, but if I wanted to make it look better, I could just compare to the last 28 days and suddenly it looks like my channel's right on track. And by the way, if you're new here and finding the content valuable, hit that subscribe button and do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, share. Your help would mean a lot. Thank you. But this actually tells you something Ubisoft doesn't want to say. A much bigger game like AC Shadows didn't boost even this new metric, session days, as much as they wanted. Otherwise, they would have compared it directly to Mirage or any other AC game instead of hiding it behind a 2-year average of the franchise. Their second claim was that Ubisoft made $567 million or 491 million euros, which is 39% more than last year, implying that this massive jump was because of Assassin's Creed Shadows, once again misrepresenting the numbers. Now, while they did see a 39% jump, that was not because of the overperformance of Shadows. Turning to our second quarter, net bookings stood at 491 million euros, above guidance and up 39% year on year. Now here's what's important to note. The outperformance was driven by stronger than expected partnerships, demonstrating the power and attractiveness of our portfolio, as well as a meaningful contribution from live TV and animated series. So in no way, shape or form do they say the 39% boost came from Assassin's Creed Shadows or the franchise as a whole. The majority of the money Ubisoft made came from partnerships. It just means the perceived value of their IPs attracted big deals like the ones with Netflix, and that's what saved their numbers. Otherwise they were pretty much because none of their games performed as well as they would have liked them to, especially AC Shadows, and the next bit pretty much confirms it. Shadows benefited from the launch of the new Game Plus mode, which was widely anticipated by the community and introduced greater difficulty and new challenges for the players. The Claws of Awaji expansion released on September 16th and contributed to re-engaging the players. Turning to the current quarter, we launched Value of Memory on November 18th, a free major update on Assassin's Creed Mirage. First feedback from the community is very positive, with player activity on Assassin's Creed Mirage doubling following the launch of the update, enabling the game to reach 10 million player mark. As you can see for yourself, they proudly flexed 10 million players for Assassin's Creed Mirage, but did not give any solid numbers for AC Shadows, not even a player count. And that speaks volumes. That pretty much explains why instead of any solid numbers, all we got was the vague claim, it overperformed. Which could literally mean, yeah, it made $100 more than we expected. That's how useless that statement is, because no one really knows what their expectations were to begin with. But anyways, so here's what's actually going on. Ubisoft is barely scraping by at this point, and if Tencent deal hadn't gone through, they'd be dead in the water. Assassin's Creed Shadows didn't do anything impressive. It wasn't a flop, but it wasn't a success either. It's safe to say neither the investors nor the gamers are really confident about the next one. That's why the stock price is still lying flat on the floor and the market cap is sitting around $1 billion. Meanwhile, Tencent, who now owns 25% of Ubisoft's most valuable IPs, is just waiting patiently for the right moment to swoop in and gobble the whole thing up if they want to. So Ubisoft can blame you or the market or everything else as much as they want, but I hope they're comfortable with not owning their own company. Anyways, I'll leave you at that. Do let me know what do you make of all this in the comments down below. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.